Z tier. These champions are capable of going against mostly everything, and in the event they're countered, they should be able to still provide value in some capacity. Their current bounce level and itemization paths allow them to function differently from other champions versus too wide of a range of champions. These champions can often outright be found to also be a reason for you winning the game or as a build around. S tier. These champions are very good, and in the current balance of the game, they stand above most. They come with more susceptibilities than their Z-tier counterparts, but they're still able to be seen as champions that can help define win avenues in a game. They're all around just really strong champions in their current balance state. The A-tier champions are all around solid and good. In some of the matchups, they're even better than champions that you could find placed above them, but oftentimes are a lot more conditional, or they're just kind of more all around, so they slot in a little bit differently. Every champion in this rating is absolutely viable. The B tier champions. These champions are either perceived as really strong with base stats or that they have a really specific purpose. These champions either suffer from being either too one-dimensional or that they're either entirely dependent on their stats, and in a competitive setting, they can't really accelerate the same way that they would be able to in a solo queue game, so they can't reach the type of thresholds that people would perceive them as having. There's also the problem that they can also have too much of a dependency on things that might be outside of their control. The C-tier champions are the ones that, in theory, can be picked, but really you have to ask yourself, why are some of the champions in this tier being picked? And generally, they're going to be extremely one-off, and generally, their roles are going to be found better served in other champions elsewhere. For the D-tier champions, these champions aren't worth what they're giving you in exchange for what you're having to put into them. Either they require too many things to go right, or they're too much of a sink, or they're super hyper niche to realistically consider adding into your comp. Sometimes you will still see champions like this end up coming out due to a certain player's affinity for specific champions in here. Okay, so the way that it works, I went over it with like Trymbi, Zven, Tenacity, trying to get Imp, but he's like sick. You're familiar with like the tier list that I make every single year, right? I make like typically 2. Okay. So normally they get shit because I never specified like specific things. So this time around I tried to add more clarity by adding like the counter specification. Like this champion's only good if it comes in as like a response.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with it. It's kind of nice to add something like that.
Yeah.
Also for jungle might be a bit different if you count the champions like a solo queue champion or competitive champion, because I think like some champions that are really OP in solo queue, they are not always like really OP in competitive game.
Right.
So, but I guess we can just talk about it because
Okay, so let's just start. So Aatrox, I think, is actually pretty good, and I also think he's flex mid right now with the Evenshroud build, because he gets the resists, and in addition to getting the resists, his build path is really cheap, which means he comes online really quick. It's very obnoxious, because he can just go Mercury Treads versus a lot of the meta mid laners right now in mid lane, and then he just gets to go Evenshroud, and he gets to wake up with ridiculous amounts of power in early mid game like conversion. So I think that's very oppressive. So I actually think Aatrox is not in a bad spot right now, because his itemization, he's not heavy as a champion, and he converts to a lot of power.
I agree. I mean, I'd put him on A for now, and like, I don't know if I'd ever, like, I put him in S tier if all his, like, if I think all the S and Z tier champs are bad into Aatrox, I'd put him in S, but for now, I don't want to put him higher than A. Because he's always been like reliant on the matchups and like what is pickable into him, because he ends up getting feasted on by like he ends up getting murdered by champions like Fiora, Irelia. Mid lane he doesn't really do that well into like actual control mages, like Victor and Orianna and stuff. Like he's okay, but it's not really worth playing him. There are better counters, so I'd put him in A, because just I agree with you. He's in a good spot in the game right now. He does a lot of high base damage, building defensive items. Yeah. And then he can pivot his build into whatever he wants to from there. GP's not really a blind right now. I think it's like, for the flex value, I just put it in B. I don't see what Annie top is really providing. You already have the flex and support if you need to, and really like mid lane, what is she getting picked? Like, what are you counter picking Annie with that is like ending her right now?
So Azir has like really niche matchups, right? But you're never going to be blinding him.
Well, he's a flex, right? So there's the value in that. I do think the champion is actually very underrated. I think the champion, in terms of damage output right now, I think he's way higher than he used to be. Like way higher. Like I think this champion, after the buffs he's getting, might be a pick or ban mid laner. He has enough merit to where this whole Nautilus Gragas, Cassante, like you pick a mid laner that pushes and roams. Ahri, his matchup with Ahri is fantastic. At least it used to be, and I think it's a little bit better now that they're nerfing the Q cooldown early game. Down 2 seconds, which means you are maxing W on him, W into Q. It's a big deal. Like he actually gets 2 seconds down at every level.
Yeah.
I think Azir might have enough merit into like these Nautilus flexes, Cassante flexes, Ahri blinds, even Annie blind. Like I see Azir dominating.
Yeah, versus Annie, it's
as a scaling champion into all of this mid lane, which means he's obviously going to be great because you can leave him. Like you can basically leave him till 5 pick like every time because he's great into the mid lane mages, right? You can just blind pick him.
Yep.
Or he's great into the mid lane meta, I should specify. I think this champ is really OP. Unironically, like when I watch Nemesis play like this tank Azir build where he's like goes like Liandry's into like a defensive AP item or like a straight up tank item, like Liandry's Nashor's Tooth into like Frozen Heart.
Right.
This type of crap.
Yeah.
I don't know. He seems to be doing infinite damage and can't die. So.
And can't die, right.
I don't know. He might be like
He's
he
cooking.
might not be as egregious as Tank Victor used to be, but he gives me real Tank Victor vibes once he gets to like that stage of the game.
Okay.
Crazy amounts of damage. I think it's like S tier counter.
Okay.
I don't think he wins you the game on the spot, but I think he can definitely complement a lot of comps. And like I said, I think the champion might be the mid lane. Like it might be like the control mage's dream.
Okay.
To get out of this hellhole that has been the last few months for mid lane.
I
think he might actually give enough like value and like reward for scaling that it's worth waiting for Azir.
Okay. All right. Let's do Brand. So like Brand has, so I was talking to you right before we started recording, right? That Brand almost came out during the Zayu Cup because he has a lot of good matchups into obviously the tanks, right? He has some pretty good matchups into a lot of the tank champions. The Lost Chapter buff was like really big for him, and a lot of people don't realize his passive change allows him to basically just infinitely have mana in the laning phase and be a massive bully. The difference is that, yeah, Cassiopeia, so Brand comes in as a counter, Cassio comes in as a counter. They do things a little bit differently. Brand, like, has longer range, but Cassio's a lot more durable and, appreciates when champions come into her definitely more. I guess Brand lights things up a little bit more in terms of, like, damage, but...
So, I agree with you. I like Brand. Like, so sorry for cutting off. You can continue.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Well, the issue I have with Brand is like he's a Lost Chapter champion and he kind of really wants to go. Like, there's no like you're going Liandry's whether you like it or not type of deal,
yes.
right? Like you're never gonna go Rod of Ages, and I think that not being able to like tech into Rod of Ages into specific jungle champions right now with Ghostblade is just certain death. Like I think if Kha'Zix is in the game and you're playing Liandry's Brand top lane, I'm sorry, but I don't see how you're not dying 12 times. Like I feel like it's really hard to avoid that. I feel like it's too hard to pilot. Like personally, I see what you mean, and again, I think any excuse to have Brand in the game, this champ pumps damage for literally like 2 or 3 champions worth. Like literally, 3 champions worth minimum, like every team fight.
Yep.
But I think getting him there is extremely complicated.
Yeah.
Especially against all these Ghostblade champs, and whilst it's getting nerfed, I don't think the champions are bad that build Ghostblade, which means that they're going to remain in the meta. So
Right.
I would put him in don't tier because I don't know why I would play Brand top over Cassiopeia in a meta where Ghostblade junglers are sprinting around killing everyone in like, they'll run lane to lane in like 10 seconds. But I like it. I like the champ. I think the champ is very cool, and I think the champ has definite value. I just don't think you can warrant picking it right now over Cassiopeia, especially because again, like you have Ryze, Brand, Cassio, you have Gwen as well. I feel like Gwen and Cassio are 2 champions that kind of fit the same niche, like big AP damage team fighters.
Yes.
And I don't know why when I would ever pick Brand over either of those.
Okay.
That's my take.
Okay. Then Camille.
Camille. Ooh. Camille. What do you think? Let's have you start.
Camille, Camille, I think Camille's in a weirder spot because I don't think that you're going to be blinding her. There's way too many champions that answer her right now. And in terms of being an anti-tank champion, right, Sunderer did end up getting hit. I guess Trinity Force got buffed, right, which used to be like one of her old builds that she used to ended up going. But there's so many champions that I think are just going to be better counter picks than a Camille is going to be. That I can't imagine having her come in and be any higher than like A, unless like you have a very specifically sculpted team composition that needs Camille to have her Hextech ultimatum lock someone down.
I think I agree with you. I think it boils down to like how broken is Zerayumi Milio X gonna be, and like if all the other top laners that you're gonna pick can't reliably kill the enemy AD, and you are playing a draft where you have to kill enemy AD, she's like your get out of jail free card in the draft. You know, it's like, oh, you know, we didn't draft a proper front to back comp, and you know, we did a little bit of sitting in the first three. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
She might be your get out of jail free card on R5. But for the most part, I mean, yeah, I think Jax is still a thing in the meta. I think Fiora is still a thing in the meta.
Yep.
These are already two champions you're almost guaranteed going to want to dodge. Which means her blind value is like really rough. Renekton's getting buffed, and we all know when Renekton gets buffed, we will see him in competitive play.
Absolutely.
Whether we like that or not, which also reduces her value because it's not really valuable to have Camille and Renekton in the game. I don't think it's like a huge deal.
Yep.
Yeah, I would just say like literally what I said. If Zerayumi's OP and there's a spot to R5er and you're fucked up, Zerayumi went through and you're like, oh fuck, we need to kill these somehow. Yeah, you're probably locking Camille to solve your problems.
Okay.
I don't see another purpose. So it's like I would say like she's great in that game. You know, she's really good at that. But she's on average, I think on average she's just B. She just doesn't do the trick as well as other top laners. If you want to put her in A because she does have that value, then I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Okay, Cassiopeia.
Honestly, I'd say she's like S or Z. I think good Cassiopeia makes me cry, man. Like, I hate playing against this champ when someone piloting is like really good at her.
Yeah, I think her counter picks are really niche. She only loses to like long range, right? Jinx, I do not actually think is going to be as prevalent in the meta. And if Jinx is prevalent, it's because she goes through the ban phase and then like Milio's there, right? I think like that's something that might end up happening. Now, she's also a flex pick, which is really, really powerful because she can just go mid lane. She beats a lot of the top lane champions, and even some of her counter pick matchups, it's not like she can't tango with them. I'm not sure where I actually put her, if I just actually put her in Z or if I just put her in S.
I'd put her in Z. I'd put her in Z straight up because if you're a good, like a strong Cassio top player that is able to pilot her mid game, which I think is the hardest part of the game. I think her mid game is the hardest part by far. I think late game you get tanky enough to kind of just team fight. I also agree that there's no matchup that she can't have counterplay against, except if the player is exceptionally good at control mages. So like, I think if you're like Cassio top versus like rookie playing Syndra, or like a really sick Syndra player, you're gonna suffer. Darius is one of the absolute best counters into Poppy. Like one of the most unplayable Poppy matchups in the game.
Speaking of Poppy, let's actually just place her right now because I think that she is probably one of just the better blind picks in the game because she is a multi-way flex.
I don't think it's just easier blind, especially like I said, like I think these Ghostblade meta, like she fucking feasts on shit like Kha'Zix. Like she is the queen of protecting her AD carry, and like if you're trying to draft a champion like Kha'Zix, what kills an AD carry through Poppy reliably? And the answer is really not much.
Same.
I love Karen. I think Karen is disgusting in the right spots. But
you know her name.
One picks her. I do. I'm well versed. Like I also think her Iceborne build can be, like makes her actually like unironically decent into certain blinds. Like it makes her like almost blind viable.
All right, next.
Jax.
Yeah, Jax. I don't know, man. I'm never super excited to see Jax. I'm really not. I know he's a blind pick, but I'm never excited to actually see him. And I feel like he loses to a lot of counter picks, but he does just come out, and it feels a little bit weird. I'm just gonna place him in A. Rengar.
I mean, for me, is like, unironically a Z tier blind. I think this is like, I'd blind him right now. Like, what the fuck do you pick against this champ? Unironically, like
this champion's very good.
I'd blind him up and just like, what do you pick into him that's like feels good? Like, it's really hard. If this champ is willing to change runes, like Karthus is, change runes, change summoner spells type of bullshit, like there really is not much you pick into him and come out on top.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much it. Unless like you want to be really cheeky, but I don't think I want to be too cheeky.
Okay, so we just start. Amumu.
I mean, I think Amumu is a very strong champion in a good spot. Like, I think it's a champion that if you pick late in the draft when you already see enemy comp, it can be like solo game winning, but I don't think you can early pick him. So it's like a tough spot for the champion.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how to put him, but because especially last patch he was very strong. Right now he got a little bit nerfed for the early game clear, which I understand. But I don't know. I think it's a strong champion, but I don't know how to rate him correctly. Because yeah, as I said, you have to have very good angle for a Mumu.
All right, Fiddle.
I think Fiddle is pretty strong right now. I mean, especially if you know how to clear correctly. I mean, there was a previous patch for a second that you could double camp, but I got told that it got hotfixed, that it was not supposed to be. Like, it was not supposed to be in the game, but you can still do some tricks with like doing golems while doing a red buff, so you basically don't lose any time on doing golems. And because of that, your clear is very fast. And I don't feel like he has many bad matchups right now. So I mean, Fiddle overall is pretty strong, especially if you consider the fact that AD mid laners were pretty good on the previous patch, like Jace or Akshan. At least I saw a lot of them in solo queue. Like Fiddle is perfect with them. Like when I have Jace or Akshan in mid lane or Cassante, then Fiddle is a perfect fit. So I would count Fiddle very very highly right now.
Yeah. There's a lot of AD mid laners. There's Akshan, there's Cassante, there's Jace. I mean, Fiddle. Yeah, okay. I mean, would you be willing to blind him? Is the question.
I think so. Yeah. I think if you know that your mid laner has a good mid matchup, I think you just blind him. But it mostly depends on your mid laner. But as you said, like I think right now you can kind of blind pick the AD mid. I think like champs like Cassante or Jace don't have too many hard counters, and then you can just blind the field. I think.
Ivern. I think he's absolutely. He's just broken. I think in the jungle now with the current buffs.
Really?
I think he's totally broken. Yeah.
I have to try him out then, because I just saw how he looks, and it looks pretty OP, but I haven't tried it. But yeah, I can see it being OP.
Yeah. He does have some bad he has like some bad matchups, but it's nothing that you can't like draft around. So you can take him blind, especially because he can be flexed, because he's still able to play lane. You're able to finagle it so that like you can still play lane with him. And then Trymbi is pretty confident that he can also go support. So if that's the case, then yeah, I think Ivern's just in a really nuts spot right now. I mean, all Riot did was just buff him all across the board, so it just doesn't make sense. Yeah, I think he's in a fantastic spot right now. Especially all of his items got buffed in 1310, except for Moonstone. So yeah, he's fantastic right now. He has like 3 items for 7,500 gold or something. Like, how is that balanced?
Like, I agree. Like, they made all the items pretty cheap, like all the jungler.
Yeah. It's crazy. Okay. Hecarim.
I'm not sure. I was only playing the Yomu build on the last patch, right, when Yomu was OP, and building it with tier. But I'm not sure. Maybe with Triforce it's also good. I'm not 100% sure on that because I haven't tried. But a lot of people are building Triforce on different champs now, so maybe it's also fine on Hecarim. But I can't really tell because I haven't tried, so I can't really judge Hecarim too well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Hecarim.
What do you think?
I feel pretty similar. The other thing that I'm worried about with Hecarim is there's a lot of like the control catch-all mages that are really good in like the kiting and the enchanters in the meta right now that I think make it really problematic for him. So I don't know. In that regard, it makes me not feel good. But at the same time, I guess a lot of the enchanters also do get like Shirelias, and I don't know. I guess he's just probably like A tier.
Just a fine champion, I think.
Yeah, he's just fine. Yeah, he's just fine. Evelyn.
I feel like Evelyn is really strong. The moment you get Death Cap and you build Death Cap second or third, if you go Magi second, the moment you get Death Cap, you 100-0 every champion, basically, even the tanks. So, I mean, I feel like the champ is really strong, and it's also invisible, so it always makes a lot of chaos in the game. I think, and as we said before, we feel, I think she's really strong with AD mid laners, but you can't pick her against Fiddle. I think Fiddle is very strong against Eve. If there is a 2 AD mid laners and there is Eve against Fiddle in the jungle, I feel like it's so hard to play Eve. So I feel like Eve is very strong, but I'm not sure if you say counter, right? Because not many people play Fiddle, and you can kind of blind Eve with AD mid laners. There is not really counters to Eve in the jungle right now, because it's not easy to invade her, because she's not so weak in 1v1, and she's just very good right now. So I would say she's as blind but if you know that enemy can play fiddle jungle, I would not blind her. But as I said, not many people play fiddle, so
Right. I mean, no one plays. You're the only person that plays fiddle. You and Pabu or something like this is it. I mean, it's it's over. Okay. Graves, and remember, this is 13-11 with Stormrazor nerf and Yumu's nerf.
Yeah, I don't think it's too good. What do you think? I feel like
yeah, I think
rather play him maybe even in top lane than jungle.
Right. I think he actually really does get tagged. I think he's probably like B. I'm not happy about having him if he just has one item because it's not solo queue.
Yeah, I also think so.
Okay. Elise.
I don't know. I don't feel like it's a good Elise meta right now. I
Same.
feel like you don't really do much.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially if someone picks a tank in the top lane and then your whole win condition of diving top is gone, like you don't offer anything. So it's kind of
I'm gonna move
time for Elise.
Okay, I'm moving Belveth back down to don't, by the way, just so we can put Elise in C.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Elise is better than Belveth.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
sure, better than Bloodbath.
Yeah. Echo.
I don't see reason to pick Echo. If you can pick Fiddle, Evelyn, like why would you pick
True.
Echo? I
Okay,
feel like
yeah.
There are just better AP jumps.
Okay. I mean, I think he's more viable than Diana, I guess. But
I mean, you could like argue, right? Because Diana with Yasuo is more useful than Echo, right? But Echo is good if enemy have, I guess, like no CC. But then you always rather have Eve, right? So
then you always
what's
have,
the point
yeah.
of Echo?
Okay. Jarvan.
I think it's not too bad if you count that people are playing like Aphelios with not much like support around him maybe, or
Right.
like some unmobile mid laners, but I think it's like a situational champion that if enemy mid AD are very unmobile and you have something that wants to go in with Jarvan, like you could pick him, but he's not like super strong right now. I think it's a champion that has to have a good angle or like has to be good into enemy comp.
Okay. You want to just put him A?
So I think so, yeah. I think if you pick him early, it's not too strong, but if you pick him in a good spot, it can be really, really decent champ right now.
Okay. Cool. Kindred.
I'm not sure. What do you think about Kindred? Because I was asking you recently about the
Yeah,
build
you
on
actually
Kindred.
messaged me about Kindred builds, right? During Zayu Cup.
Yeah.
So I think, all right, so Stormrazor did just get tagged, which, I mean, I guess that's a little bit of a nerf, but now she comes with mixed damage, which is really nice because it makes it harder to do anything. Her ultimate is still really valuable, but I don't know. I feel like with the way that the meta is in mid and top lane, I don't know. I feel like she's a counter pick. When she slots in, she's amazing. She has to, like, she comes in really specifically. She's not a blind, but when she does come in, she's amazing. So, like, I don't think she's game shattering right now. I would say that, like, maybe she's like S tier counter with current itemization.
I think it could be. I saw people also doing the Triforce build on her. I'm not 100% sure of that, if it's good or not. But I saw that a lot of people started doing it and it has a decent win rate. So maybe there is something about the Triforce. But I mean, overall the champ is fine. I think it's like if you put in a good spot, it's very strong. If you pick it just blind, like then it will always do her job, but won't be too strong. So I think it's like. It's a fine champion right now, and I think in the counter pick it could be S tier, yeah.
Okay. Gragas.
I like Gragas. I think the fact that it can be also flexed is like a really good plus of the champ.
He's everywhere,
yeah.
It's huge. I don't think he's broken in the jungle, right? But I mean, I would you can blind him, right, into anything. Like you can just I think it's blind for sure. If you consider it like through the whole game, I think you could argue it's a Z tier champ, but not in the jungle. I think just the fact that it's a flex, it makes him a Z tier champ, but just in jungle, I think it's as just his kit and the way he can play the game. Like he can engage, he can play to peel, he can play to just farm up early game and then be a carry. Like he can basically do anything. Right. Yep. Okay. Kayn.
I'm not sure actually. Right now.
Also am not sure because Kayn has two parts, but unfortunately my website doesn't have both. There's Rost and there's Shadow, right? But I feel like Rost is the competitive version. So I don't know where I would put Rost. I don't feel like the meta is enough tanks and like bruisers.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would say that he's just like C. Also, itemization for him is not great right now.
I mean, I think that Kane, like, if you go into the ranked champions of enemy team, like, if enemy pick, like, I don't know, enchanter support with some AD carry, like, what can you do as Kane, basically? Like, you can't really do anything.
It's very hard,
so, it's good if they pick a lot of tanks, but as you said, like, nowadays there is not that many tanks picked. Like, sometimes people play Sion in the top lane, but that's basically it. I like Talia, honestly. I feel like her clear even was not too bad, and if you have good setup around her, like, I feel like you could make that champ work. It's a flex pick, and it deals some damage. It's just a little bit weak early game. You need to get a little bit of points in your queue to start going online, and then on your first item you are already pretty strong. But no one was playing her. I was wondering why. I feel like the champ is not too bad. Like, I for sure would be able to make it work, I think.
Okay, Udyr.
I think Udyr is like really strong even against the Z-tier champ. Like, if I play field, I really hate playing against Udyr. I feel like you never really have damage to kill him, and he kind of out farms you if he plays well. I feel like he can always look to invade your raptors and stuff like that. And also on river he just straight up beats you. So I feel like it's very strong, honestly, especially in a good comp.
He's too. Well, all right. So actually, hold on. All right, break it down for me. Why did he never come out last year?
I think it's just easier for the teams to play if they have champions that are like a little bit stronger to fight, like on different timings. Because Udyr has a game that your team has to adapt around, right? It's not like your team can make it very volatile everywhere and play their own lane however they want to. Because if they play poorly around it, like enemy can get the lead, and then basically the whole idea of Udyr is instantly gone, and then you kind of become useless if enemy just get extra gold.
Okay.
Because the Udyr gets ahead just by farming and fighting around crabs, because no one can really contest him, and then he can get the Drake for free and stuff like that. But if the game becomes a little bit more chaotic, then Udyr just loses so much value.
Yes.
And it's hard with him to make like random plays, basically. Like in pro play, a lot of games are won by some random play, even though it sounds weird because the game should be like a very organized, right?
Yes, it should be organized and controlled.
Yes, it should be like that, but it's still really often that there is some random fight and the game just gets snowballed from that, and Udyr doesn't have that ability to make something random happen, you know? So once you fall behind, then it's hard for the team to come back. But I think if the whole team plays well around him and has a good draft, like it can just solo win the game, basically, if the Udyr player will pilot it well.
All right, that's pretty good. Okay, well, thank you so much. Oh my god. In Z-tier blind is Karthus, Nico, Victor, Ziggs, and Ivern. Honestly, Ivern could maybe be moved down to S-tier blind. One of the ways that I think that Ivern's laning with his new brush is going to be circumvented is typically Ivern doesn't actually use his yellow trinkets in laning anyway. And so I think that he can actually just use his own yellow trinkets in order to guarantee brush placement. And as long as he does that and he places the yellow trinkets in certain ways, he can actually guarantee certain brush angles, and that'll allow his brushes to survive. So maybe there will be some like meta tactic where if lane Ivern would ever become prevalent enough, you would actually take Sweeper Lens against Ivern in order to clear out his yellow trinkets or something. And now also with the Lost Chapter going down in gold cost, some people might think that that's good for LeBlanc. I think it's actually bad for LeBlanc because I think that her early lane pressure and early game damage that she's able to inflict and stuff like that, it doesn't actually convert to as much because people are able to reach Lost Chapter. Okay, so Zven is now here for the ADC part as well as the Korean player that I originally was going to have help make the list ended up having something come up with COVID. And so that did put a little bit of a change in plans. So we are going to breeze through this list, and yeah, we're going to just talk about some of it. Now, ADC is the most limited of all of the roles right now in competitive. So we're just going to go through it right now. Jin.
A, B, A, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say Yeah.
Just alright.
Yeah, he's all right. You can definitely play him right now with itemization. Everything is fine there. Misfortune.
Yeah, DC. He's strong. B.
Yep.
I think. Not C, but not B. I mean, not higher than B either.
Philios?
I'd say he's either A or like S minus blind. He's very good in almost every game. He can be played with both melee and range champs. He's good, good with the enchanters, good with engage, so he should be higher than A, I think, probably. Like S minus blind, I feel like. I don't think he has many counters that are real, like hard problems. Scales well through the game, you know?
You don't think he's just S counter? S counter?
He could be in both, honestly.
Okay.
I think he's just S tier, maybe.
Okay, yeah,
just
S tier in general.
doesn't have much of like a counter, you know? It's like a lot of them are just good. He could be S counter or S blind. I think he's fine in both.
Jinx.
I would say A tier. I think Jinx isn't good blind against Lucian. No one wants to play Lucian. I mean, Jinx against Lucian at MSI. It was banned every game, Lucian, when you play Jinx blind.
Okay.
But she's a really good counter against Aphelios. Not a counter pick, but like you get fun against Aphelios and then just play for teamfights. Jinx team plays like the defensive, ranged style, while Aphelios plays the engaged style, and you just have classic 2 styles. So I would say she's S minus counter or like high A tier.
Okay.
But she's a tier above Jhin, Draven, and
yeah, she's above them. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll
say she's up here somewhere. I think for ADCs, counter and blind isn't that important. It's just S tier as a whole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kai'Sa.
B at best, I think.
Yep. Callista.
Oh, she got buffed today, right? Is she even a buff?
She got like adjusted.
I think it's overall a buff to her in the middle of the game, but early game is the same as before. So she's like B tier, I suppose.
Okay.
She's not like C tier bad. She's just whatever.
Lucian.
I would say C or S blind. I think he's a better blind pick than Jinx and Karthus are, so I would say C blind, but only with Milio and Nami. So maybe we do.
Right.
I would say he's higher than those champs, but I would say C blind pick honestly. He can win almost every lane.
Yeah, I get his new itemization is actually too problematic.
Yes.
Yeah,
like
it's too problematic.
Fire Cannon, Gale Force are very OP on Lucian. His standoff power is just insane.
Completely agree.
Rival now with more than just Nami, thanks to Milio and Yumi being new champ. So I think just C tier blind pick.
Okay, Seraphine.
I want to say A. In solo queue, it's really fucking strong, and it's very good in ball comps, which are kind of meta right now, like Wukong, Vi type of like fist fighting team comps. I would say A tier.
Okay.
I wouldn't say she's like S or C. I don't think so, but
I want to put her S just because of flex. She can go mid.
Yeah.
And then if she gets good counterpick support.
Yeah. I think A is good personally.
Xayah.
I'd say she's S blind, but that's with Rakan only.
That's only with Rakan, yeah.
S blind? I'd say A tier, honestly. A tier with Rakan. S blind, like, you could kind of buy champs like Lucian and champs like Yumi, champs like, even like Jinx, Lulu and stuff can be hard, so maybe just A, yeah.
Yeah, I think A is good. Zeri.
C blind.
Yep, she's Z blind, yep.
Yumi series is too fucking good.
Yep. Okay, Twitch.
Honestly, B, yeah. I feel like he relies on like Lulu and Yumi to be a champ, but in those type of cases, those supports would rather have Jinx or Siri or Aphelios as their carry.
Right.
But solo queue is pretty strong, I think.
Yes, Yasuo.
It should be in like a skill tier. I feel like it's
viable. I mean, okay.
But if you're not a one trick, please don't play Yasuo.
I think he's broken if you're really good at him.
Yeah, I think
he's Z tier blind if you're nuts.
If you're blind.
He is if you're really good.
You gotta be really fucking good to be a C tier blind. I don't think you can play Yasuo against Lucian or Seri, man. It's just too fucking hard. I feel like.
All right, we'll do S blind. We'll do S blind. All right, so this is it for the ADC list as well. Thank you so much, obviously, because combined this took so much time. Obviously, making this.
I enjoyed it.
I
love it.
I mean, it's totally fine. I'm the one that gets flamed, by the way, for any placements. So you're totally, I mean, that's how it works. So don't you worry.
All the flame and no credit.
All the Kai'Sa lovers are gonna be like, she's Z tier. You just don't know the build.
Actually, my Tunker is really good. You're wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my lord. So that's it. But no, thank you so much, man. Really, thank you.
Yep.
I didn't hit record. Okay. All right, so Pantheon is C tier. All right, I wasn't recording. Okay, Pantheon C tier. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you can play it. You can ult up at level 6, but I mean, strong early game, sure, but
Yes.
it's just fucking bot champ.
Belveth.
I actually don't know anything about Belveth support. I've seen a lot of people play it in solo queue, but never against me.
Yep.
I don't think it's actually bad, but I also don't know when it's good or why it's good. It's like sort of like Pantheon, no? It's the same type of champ.
I think it's the same kind of champion. I think it's very akin to like Alistar in that you'd play it in kill lanes, and it has a little bit more oppressiveness. But I think it's the same problem as Alistar in competitive. Braum? I think Braum just wins the game on the spot in some games, no?
I think Braum is S tier counter, yeah. Because if someone blind picks something that's illegal, sometimes like Leona, Alistar champs, they're forced to go in. You pick Braum, you have jungle kindred, these kind of things. Braum can be like actual just GG.
You don't think he's Z?
How much? I mean, maybe, yeah. Because sometimes
if it's just actually GG on the spot, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
that would be the logic.
Own time in the game, you have like double ADC comp, you have like a ball comp.
Right.
But yeah, he's only kind of pick. You can't blind pick Braum.
Yeah, so you can't blind pick Braum at all. Okay.
I think he's the C tier counter, yeah.
Maokai.
Next pick is viable, I guess. Maokai, I don't know. What is Maokai's strength as a support?
I guess saplings, right? Vision control.
Yeah, that got nerfed though.
It did get nerfed pretty hard.
Cooldown is super high.
Yeah.
And he's like so OP.
I mean, he can go Helia, right? Because of the way the saplings deal damage.
Yes,
I mean,
I've heard about the Helia farm life shit.
Yeah.
But still, bro, like, is that really like?
I'll just put him C.
You're like a glorified Heimerdinger at that point.
Yeah, at that point, you're a glorified Heimerdinger. I'll put him B, whatever.
You are. Really?
I can't imagine him being worse than the C tiers because it's Maokai, and Maokai jungle is still going to be a thing.
He's not as weak as Pantheon or Sax.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Okay, Milio, welcome.
Okay. Well, you can just put him on top there. Just straight to top right there.
Wait. So I don't think he's a blind pick.
I think he is. He can
you
be
really
S
think so?
Minus. Yeah. Because I think Milio even what do you think counters Milio?
So I think if you have Yuumi against him, Senna against him,
Senna what?
Senna X, right? It's gonna depend. But like, there's no way for Milio to stop Senna from like getting.
I agree with that, but I think like Milio has flexibility that he can be played with like Lucian, which is a strong lane against counters to Milio. You can play it with scaling champs like Jinx and Aphelios. You can play with like Saya. You can play with like almost anything, honestly.
Yeah.
And he works so well with AD champs, which is okay. I will say new patch. I don't know how OP they are, but like Graves, Rengar, Kha'Zix, these champs when they get buffed by Milio, they do so much damage.
Nautilus.
I think Nautilus is better in jungle and mid, honestly.
Than support, yeah.
I do think he's like at the least B tier. He's good in some situations. He's the best engaged support, I think, for the most part, because he has hard CC that isn't mercs or cleansable.
Yep.
And he's flex pick, an actual flex pick.
Yep.
So I think he's at least B or A tier.
Misfortune.
Vega V2 is a big fan of MF, but
I'm a huge fan too.
He's a big fan of like Comet, Emax, MF, and I do like it. I tried it versus Heimerdinger a while. It was actually not bad.
Yeah.
No one picked Heimerdinger in NA besides me, for the most part, so I never got to play it.
Yeah.
I would say C tier. You can definitely play MF with things like Seraphine or things like MF Ashe. You know, you have these like cringe range champs, but I don't know, man. I'm not a fan.
She got a lot of love. So I actually want to place her a little bit higher. I think she's actually pretty. So I think like Varus MF, Ashe MF are both good. I think like Karthus MF is also really good.
Yeah, I think it's viable at least. I wouldn't say it's good, but I'm okay with it being in the same tier as like all the others, like shit champs.
Okay, there you go. Okay, all right, Pyke.
Pyke is sometimes actually not a bad pick. It's just like the thing about Pyke is even in your best games, if the team has champ like assassins or like Lee Sin type champs, you can be like 1k bounty and then someone gets it, Akali gets it, and you're like, oh, that sucks.
Yep.
So
the game just ends. Yeah. All right, Sona.
I want to say A.
You don't think she's like Z counter?
She can be C counter, but she can also. I think S minus counter might be better. I think Sona against enchanters where you can actually win lane is super good, but you have to have your whole comp built around Sona. You know, like you have to have a full melee comp,
you have to have
a
a Sona comp
that gives Sona maximum value on her spells to make her viable. And a lot of things that are really annoying for Sona, like assassins.
Well, she got hurt less by the changes, right? Because
what?
she got hurt less by the changes to the items.
Yeah, I think so too. Echo is very good on her.
So I think in that regard, it's like nice. She also pairs with ADCs better than some of the others.
Yeah,
So-
I
so
like
I-
Sona.
yeah.
But she's like an only counter pick champ.
Yes.
But C, I don't know. I think S or C. Yeah, I guess it's okay. But I will say Yumi is tied to one champ right now, which is Siri. But Yumi Siri is just the most OP thing I think in the game. I think Milio should be here as well, but Yumi is definitely more OP than Milio, I think. But it's only Siri that makes it that like that, right? Yeah.
Do you think
Yumi's OP.
Yumi's that broken?
Yeah, I think so. I think Yumi, like, you can build Mandate for poke, you can for more damage, you can build Mikhails for cleanse value, you can build Telia, like, you can build anything you want and do so many different things. Laning phase is super solid, and Siri is just fucking OP as a champ. Like, the design of Siri is just OP as fuck.
Okay.
Like, the Triforce, Hurricane, Titanic shit is just so fucking cringe.
Okay.
Once you get to that point, you just lose. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So it feels like against Siri, you're playing against Time Bomb with Yumi on her.
And Zoe you can put an A for sure.
Oh,
But,
do you have any insight on Rel or no?
Oh, I mean, I saw such. I think the changes are good, but bro, it's fucking Enchanter meta. Why would you fucking change Rel now? Like, it's just.
Right. And
like,
with
this
Janna
champ is
existing, she's
just-
never gonna come
this
in
champ
blind.
Just
Yeah.
sucked. This champ just sucks.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
But you can put her. I think now you can put her B because the Q change is decent. But I don't know. Maybe she's just bad, you know. But
Okay.
I think B after it should be like a question mark, you know. Like you just cannot know. Like you just cannot know after changes.
Okay.
You could also put Sejuani in, but I know nobody will play it. But
Yeah, no one's gonna
she's
play it.
this
Oh, where do you
strong,
want to
know?
put Nasus?
Oh my, with all of them, even fucking Milia is out now. We could go a little bit up with the tier. I think B.
B. Yeah.
Looking at how I don't think he can. Yeah.
I mean,
versus
Callista's
A
gone.
champs.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, Kalista got buffed, so maybe there will be an angles, right? But
Yeah.
you never know.
He's dependent on a lot of things. Okay.
Yeah. I
Um.
don't know if there's any more supports that you could put. I mean, you could put so many other champions, right? That could go support, but it's not ideal.
They're not. They're not real supports, right?
It's
Right,
like like champs like Rambo and stuff. Like nobody will play them. Only people that actually will think about it, you know, and
Yeah.
try to
Yep.
define a meta a little bit different.
Okay. Okay. So all right. So that's support.